Hello, I'm Valerie Brandt. I'm a student member of the Institute on World Affairs Committee. Before I introduce our noon speaker today, I'd like to remind you to please attend this evening's lecture, The Effects of Perestroika on Developing Nations, given by Alejandro Bendaña at 8 o'clock in the Sunroom. Our speaker this noon is G.V. Minzulan. He studied and graduated from Leningrad State University and now has a full professorship in meteorology. He is head of both the State Hydrological Institute and the Agrophysical Institute in Leningrad. He's also a member of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. His research areas include economic analysis of climate change impact on the environment and agriculture. Please welcome G.V. Minzulan.
Thank you, my dear colleague. Great thanks for you, to invitation to this course of lectures from me and to my colleagues also. But I beg your pardon, it's my respectfully first lecture in English, and maybe my English not will be so correct, and forgive me, please. For me, especially for me, it's necessary to have a more long period of time for opening my dictionary, and now I have no so much time for some good opening as opening of the door between the West and East. This very practical explained that my interest is connected with the problem of climatic change and impact of climatic change on environment and especially for agriculture. Yes, how you understand that problem is very multidisciplinary and include in this frame the many scientific positions connected with economy, meteorology, soil physics, dynamics of the crop productivity, and so on. Because this problem is very political, it's necessary to have some political point of view for more good explain my position in these problems. But now I begin from the more scientific problems in this area. I think that you fully understand that Eastern Europe forces for going from this not so good stage of economics and politics very depend on the future of environment, and I think it's very good for us if the future of our environment will be good for perestroika's ideas and ideas of world reconstruction political relation reconstruction. And now it is very important to investigate this problem in all of the detail and compare the environmental condition in the countries for the good understanding what countries more in now it displaces good time changing of environment, but and another more not so good. This very important problem now is reflected in many international projects. For example, I think the greatest international project now is connected with the three ideas. First idea, to investigate the future of climate. Second, to estimate the impacts of climatic change. And third, it is to develop a strategy of relationship with the community and changing climate. But now, this reports of this working group prepared, and now I think just now discussed in Geneva on a special World Climate Conference, the second World Climate Conference, which prepared some conclusions, some issues to United Nations organization, and will be as a material for discussion in United Nations Special Assembly in next year, maybe next, maybe after next year. And this investigation is has a very concrete idea to prepare some agreement between the countries about the future of the climate. It may be to stop emission of carbon dioxide, if it's possible in the future. It's first words as an introduction to the climate change idea. But I begin my scientific part from one interesting question. If it's possibility to estimate the present position of the countries in environment reflected in agriculture, I think it's possible if we have an idea to have correspond to compare the two time periods of global changing of global climate. It's period respectively with the not so high averaged global temperature and more high. In this century, we have two periods which it is possible to use for this investigation. First period, it is period before 30 and 30. Before 30, global climate characterized more low temperature as an average, and the 30 characterized more high global temperature. And the second period, but the first period is connected with a natural condition. It's connected with the changing of atmospheric transparency, which connected with the volcanic activity. But second period, it's our period, is connected to the anthropogenic emission of carbon dioxide in atmosphere. But we try to compare these periods in terms of agricultural condition over the world. It's more interesting. How do I understand the moderate territory of the Europe, Soviet Union, and North America? We use for this the information of crop yields of many countries for wheat, maize, rice, barley, oats. This number is show the amount of countries, and especially for the Soviet Union and the United States, more detailed characteristics connected with the spring and winter wheat yields, more local territories. In Soviet Union, so-called our administrative territories are oblasti in 119 regions, and for winter wheat a little less. For United States, for spring and winter wheat for the United States states. And after that, we interested the two characteristics of this series. First is how changes trends of this crop yields. For example, if we suppose the first period of our global warming, more cold, finished at this date, and more warm beginning from 1975, it's maybe interesting to compare the characteristics of the trends of the crop yields. And another characteristic is variability of year-to-year variability of yields. If first characteristics more connected with the technological factors and climate as a low wave of climate, and low changes, But second is more connected with the so-called second momentum of this series. It is variability. And more climate connected, I think you understand that variability is more climate connected because in trend we have a very, very large agro-technical component. And finally, first characteristic is this one. It is difference between trends here and here. And second is percentages of changing of variability. It's interesting how countries now displays in these characteristics. For example, wheat. Please mark. I marked the countries of Eastern Europe by black circles. Please mark that our countries of Eastern Europe, for the trend, is displayed in the upper part of this table. But minus this, it's marked that the trend on the first period to the second period on this country is changing on the worst, on the bad side. But the plus is connected with the more good changing of the trend. For example, this one. Listen about my abbreviation: Bulgarian, Afghanistan, Israel, Sweden, and so on, as a TV screen. But for the second parameter, the countries displays it, this country displays it more low than the first column of this table. But I think it is a good mark than the economical condition which from which this trend is dependent. Not so good than not only the trend not only characterized by the changing of climate, because this more pure dependence for climate reflected in variability, but on the second parameter, these countries displays is more low. If we try to summarize this idea on all of the series which we investigated, the picture is more sharp. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Eastern Europe countries displayed on the upper layer of this table, and it's possible to mark that it is not connected with the climate change and more bad climatic condition, because the second parameter characterized the variability show that this country is displayed on not so good, not so bad position, and more low levels of this table. I think it is one mark which help us to understand a more good understanding for modern changing for the environmental and economical position in these countries. But it's no impossible to understand the present changing of environment reflected in agriculture. No possible to understand environmental conditions and changing of heredity condition in this area of the Europe and Soviet Union. Especially for the Soviet Union, we interested in another characteristic which describe more detail the Soviet Union, the territory, and we tried to compare these characteristics to the changing of heredity in the United States, and connect this changing with the global warming and global cooling. For this study, we use so-called heredity index. Maybe agrometeorologist knows about this. It's heredity index as a composition of relative anomalies of temperature and precipitation and the growth season in the territory. If we have a positive anomaly of temperature, our heredity is rise. And if we have positive anomaly of precipitation, our heredity goes down. And after that, we try to obtain the distribution of the heredity indices connected with global cooling and global warming. Now, this picture on my slides. Yeah. Will help me. Okay, thank you. First one, please. It's possible. Huh? Mm-hmm. At first step, I explain you this in more detail. Focus, please. More. Yeah. More. Yeah, okay. Okay. It's real data of crop yields in the Soviet Union and United States. Now it's an example. We use the United States corn and United States wheat in USSR wheat. This is connected with the war time. But first of all, I think it is very easy to mark then if we analyze the relative characteristics, not the figures of yield, but ratio of yield to trend. The more than usual bad condition for the yield is in 30, and now it's connected with the present time. This one and that one. For United States, it's not so good show. But if you analyze the heredity indices, this is possible to mark more delicate. But some more word about this picture. This picture is connected with the investigation of the losses of the yield connected with the real weather in the year. We calculate the economical trend using the figures on of the technological factors, as for example using the fertilizer, combines in other agricultural machines. And after that, we draw this trend as this trend show what is possible for our yields if the weather in all of the years was as a best weather. For example, this one. As it, for example, this one. But absolute value of losses now you can show that more and more greatest. But I continue. My idea to have a comparison between the global warming and global cooling. Second place, please. Yeah. This is the picture for the Soviet Union. Picture connected with how the environment condition were changing from global cooling in this period till 27. And from 27 to the end of this period. This period we cut on two sub-periods. One period it is from this date to 27, I repeat, and from 27, and from 28 to the end. For the trend of aridity, if we go from global cooling to global warming, very large area in the Soviet Union at that time, the environmental conditions were deteriorated. But now, if we try to obtain the same picture for our time, this pattern is the same. But we want to obtain the maybe similar picture, but now it's not so similar. But in general, the condition of the moisture, if we have a comparison to two periods, goes to the bad side. Next slide, please. Yeah, it is the same characteristic for United States. For first period, when the global climate change was natural, and our period, when our changing global climate change is anthropogenic. But the picture for United States, for North America in generally, is more close. But this deterioration area is more deep and more large territory of United States. I think maybe the continuation of the global warming maybe goes to new picture when the boundary of the zero isoplat goes more this direction. If it's as a hypothesis. But more deep changing we can obtain if we study the second characteristic, the variability of crop yields. It is these pictures shows only the trend of the aridity condition, but next pictures will show to changing of year-to-year variability. Next, please. For the Soviet Union, the variability in the first case changes as shown on this picture, with a very deep depression on the center of Belarusia, and more smooth in another part of the Soviet Union. But now this depression is more deep than the first case connected with the natural changing of the climate change, natural factors of the climate change. But here, the depth of this depression is more than 50%. The year-to-year variability of the wheat yield now in Ukraine regions is more large than the period from 61 to 74. Yeah, thank you. I think it's very interesting for us now to obtain the figures about how the expected climatic change will be reflected on an environment condition and agriculture. Now for this idea, usually in scientific community has a two possibility. First possibility to use the scenario of a future climate generated by modern GCM's general circulation models of computed by the supercomputers. And the second possibility is connected with the reconstruction of the past climate, connected with the past geological periods. Soviet investigation goes for the second way, because we have not so great achievement in climatic modeling. And now I think in American community it's more interesting to know the issues and the conclusions which we obtain using by paleoclimatic analysis scenarios. But for this we use three scenarios. First of these scenarios is connected with global warming, about 1 degree Celsius. The analog of this new climate is so-called optimum of Holocene. It's about 4,000 years before. This characteristics of this climate was obtained by using very very wide investigation connected with the ice core analysis, with some vegetation changing of analysis and so on. Yes, but this scenario can obtain only the more generalized characteristic. For example, the changing of temperature for in winter and the summer, and characteristic of precipitation as connected on the winter and summer precipitation. The second scenario is so-called scenario of Eemian interglacial. It's more far from us period of time, of geological time, and more than 125,000 years before. This scenario shows the changing of temperature and precipitation, which we can expect about first quarter of next century, about 2025. And the global warming in this period is estimated by the modern estimates, goes from some assumption about the development of energetics and so on. It's about 2.2 Celsius degrees. And third scenarios is more far. It's scenarios of so-called optimum of Pleistocene, I beg your pardon. It is about 4 million years before us, and the global warming at that time was more than 3 Celsius degrees. Now I will show you in general the changing of two characteristics of agricultural interesting for agriculture. First, it is changing of the level of climate productivity of the crops, and second is the changing of variability of crop yield variability. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. It is first scenario. According Holocene optimum scenario, we will expect this beginning of the next century. Picture for Europe. The complex influence of the global changing of temperature and precipitation in Europe, and in addition, carbon dioxide evaluation, carbon dioxide concentration evaluation. But because the carbon dioxide is very important factor of photosynthesis, show that the changing of crop productivity index in Europe will be about 10, maybe 15%. But majority of these figures connected with the carbon dioxide rising. The carbon dioxide concentration evaluation in this period, we suppose that will till 318 particle per million. 380. In comparison, the present day 348. Next slide, please. It's a figure for Soviet Union. As can be shown that in center of the Soviet Union we have the area where the changing is more or less than near from this area. It's connected to this idea, this implied in optimum Holocene scenario has one detail. In central of the moderate zone of the northern hemisphere, we can obtain the area with deterioration of moisture condition. In the Soviet Union, it is not so deep, and the cumulative action of carbon dioxide, temperature, and precipitation show that the climatic productivity index in this territory, more maybe in any case more than now. Next, please. Then the United States, in North America, this area is more large. But when we have here even the zero isoplat, in this territory, the productivity index will not be evaluated. More deep picture will be obtained if we will interest by year-to-year variability. Next, please. And in Europe, the picture is not so dramatic. The Soviet Union, please. Next. For the Soviet Union, this belt of latitude, we use the positive figure of changing of yield variability. Here, the yield variability will be more great, more big than before, than now. This area displays on this belt, as this belt, is connected with the feature of using scenario. Next slide, please. For United States, at the zero line, it's evaluation of 5, 10, 15%. It's more deep. But if you know something present distribution of variability index in the United States, in the Soviet Union, we can mark that the future variability of wheat yield, for this example, in the United States in the beginning of next century is not more than the natural present variability in the best of the Soviet area, Soviet region of Soviet cereal area in Krasnodar. But I think that this figure is not so dramatic because it is more good than present picture in the Soviet Union. Next, please. It is second scenario, EMEA integration. It's more far from us, age, and the carbon dioxide concentration evaluation in this period till 430 ppm. If we will use the scenarios connected with the paleoclimatic idea, after respectively not so good stage of climatic change connected with the warming on 1 degree, all of the characteristics, precipitation, the temperature, carbon dioxide especially, after this not so good stage goes to the best condition. And all of the scenario shows that it is very good reflected for the agriculture. Next slide, please. This is a picture for the Soviet Union. This very great figures connected with that because it is percentages. And now, in this area, we have very low yields and percentages in ratio to present yield. Now it is the reason for this very great figures, because it's possible now to introduce agriculture more southern territory in the Soviet Union. Next, please. We have now the scenarios, EMEA scenarios for the Western Hemisphere, and use only for the old world, the EMEA scenario. It is a changing of variability. Everywhere, the variability will be more, will be less than now. Even 40% in Pyrenean. Next, please. It is for variability of Soviet Union. It's the same picture. The condition will be more good for agriculture, and variability of crop yields and crop yields will be more constant from year to year. Next, please. And for the ending, our final scenario connected with the global warming on 3 or maybe 4 degrees, which we expected in middle of next century. This scenario connected with the rising of carbon dioxide concentration till 560 ppm. The cumulative action of evaluation of carbon dioxide, the good condition for the moisture, showed that the distribution of productivity index in Europe, in Soviet Union and the United States will be more and more good. Next, please. For example, the Soviet Union, and third for United States. Next, please. Next, please. For United States. I think it's absolutely okay figures. And for variability, the same. Variability of our yields will be more good, and yields will be more constant. Next, please. For Europe, maximum figure is about 20%. Next, please. In the Soviet Union, that territory which will be deteriorated condition for the first stage now is absolutely good. And for United States, please. Next. Is the same, but not so much. Thank you. Now I think that maybe we have some conclusion about these figures. I think now it's necessary, if we will be follow after these scenarios, maybe now for us it's necessary to prepare not so good condition, the nearest our 10 years, maybe 15 years. And maybe our agricultural condition in the Soviet Union and maybe North America also will be slightly decreases conditions for the agriculture. But after this, all of the estimates show that the condition will be more and more available, more and more good for agriculture. I think maybe if you have a question for this problem, I'm ready to answer for your questions. Thank you. Look.
Does your model take into account rainfall as well as a rise in temperature? Are we sure we'll have enough moisture to support these crops?
I absolutely not stop for the methodics of the preparation of these figures. But if you're interested, I answer a little shortly. But for the calculation of the productivity index, we use the special model connected with the changing with the influence of the crop productivity, the changing of precipitation, the changing of temperature, and especially carbon dioxide. It is complete enough model with mathematical formulas and using some ideas for the changing of crops, for the changing of its parameters, and so on. For second parameter, we use the statistical model connected with the development of the long-term series of crop yields in the countries, and especially in the region of the countries. And after that, we obtain the picture for the modern distribution. After that, we fluctuate this input parameters and obtain, according to our scenarios, obtain to new values for the variability.
Does your model, or do you have any models that take into consideration any other environmental deterioration, such as acid rain, or those factors other than just humidity and temperature?
No, I think it's a basis for the new evaluation of influence on another anthropogenic factors, for maybe acid rains, maybe changing of the chemicals and so on. But this is as a influence on only the climatic parameters: temperature, precipitation, and carbon dioxide. But necessary to continue this investigation for obtain more realistic characteristics on this basis. Because it's very difficult to obtain now the future changing of the using of fertilizer and other technological factors. Maybe it's necessary to obtain the first floor condition. After that, to introduce another factors.
We have time for a few more questions.
You've shown that temperate countries can expect raised cereal yields. What about tropical countries if temperature goes up?
But tropical